Okay, going live right now everywhere. Just check I'm live here as well. Good. Hello everyone, and welcome to Monday. Welcome to a live Q&A, especially on, focused on capital, VCs, raising funds, and getting investors. So this is a big one for a lot of people. I've got a stack of questions here that people have fired over, so thanks so much to everyone who's doing that. And I'm just making sure we're online. Looks like we are everywhere. So thanks everyone for jumping in on Instagram, on YouTube, on the podcast, on the Entrepreneur Business group in Facebook, and on my Facebook profile as well. It's great to have you all here. This is Startup Business Q&A episode 83. Yeah, what a day ahead. It's mad. It's now 1 o'clock, of course, in the UK. And it's been one hell of a morning. I've just launched a campaign with a car business and a hire car company. So if you're not on LinkedIn, check me out. I'm Richard James Moore, M-O-O-R-E. On LinkedIn, and I'd love to see what you think about the campaign we're doing there. But look, there's a load of questions here. It's so important to get into this because everyone's interested in those early moments for their business. How do they get themselves off the ground? And usually at the front of people's mind is money and it's capital. I find this is going to be very interesting today because of two reasons. Firstly, I want you to be thinking, or at least coming away from this thinking, do I really need that capital? Do I really need an investor? And secondly, what about where I get them from? Traditionally, you get investors, investment money or funding from particular places. I want us to be analyzing that and just really thinking about, disrupting or changing what looks like the norm here. So we'll look into that. There's a load of questions so far. If you have a question, of course, for me on this, whether on Facebook, YouTube, or here on Instagram, do let me know. But let's get into it. So the first question is from Michael Getty. When funding is not available, is barter a viable option to pursue? I'm going to start with this one because this is one of the things I'm really behind, ironically, because we're talking about investing and raising capital today. I am massive on this for two reasons. Firstly, if you're going to get funding, to some degree, you are in someone's pocket now, Michael. And what it means is that you're in a place where potentially people are maybe giving you money, but expecting things from you. And that adds pressure. Okay, so you need to be right in your head. Like, am I ready? Am I wanting this? Is this something I'm up for? Because you can't get money with no strings attached and really work like that. So yeah, barter is a very viable option. And I strongly suggest you pursue that. The other reason is crucial. Here it is. And this is one of the, if this is the biggest takeaway you have for the day, and Michael, I'm glad you're online watching, I think I just saw you on Facebook there. It's this one. When it comes down to bartering, as in you're giving someone some value instead of you're giving them something else. If you're getting some kind of value in return, maybe it's some cash, but you give them some value in some kind, bartering gives so much more emotional buy-in. If we look aside from, say, capital and investment and things like that, if I was to ask for someone's services, right, as a web developer, instead of paying that person, if I could provide them some value or some kind of service on some level, whatever it might be, there's such a deeper buy-in because instead of just cash, okay, which does have some emotional response with some people, it gives them so much more because if I can find something that I can help them with that they can't do, it means that much more for them. And you tend to get a better result, I think. You get more buy-in, more accountability, you get people caring that much more as well. So barter's massive. And if it comes to a case of saying, right, how do I get people to, for instance, engage in my content? I could go pay, I could spend money on that, or I could provide value, build up attention, build up love, essentially, in my direction, and then cash it in. So the barter there, I suppose, is if I want attention, I have to give people things of value instead of paying money for it. So 100%, if you can explore bartering first, I strongly believe you should do that. capital isn't necessarily just cash in your bank account. Capital might well be something better than that. It could be, you know, in the case of, it could be someone providing you with a service or something. And I feel that you can give something other than, you know, just money. Sometimes there is something else to it. So I strongly believe in this. I think barter economy is great. There are so many people that I work with. I'm giving them services, they're giving me services, and often it's the case that we don't have any money exchanging hands at all, because actually the value is given to each other on a higher level. Sure, cash is useful for many things, but there's a little bit more to it than that when it comes to building a business. Sometimes you flat out need cash from people, I get that. But if you can leverage someone's service, which is ultimately what that money is going to be used for anyway, why wouldn't you do it through providing them some kind of value? It's just crazy. And when you really need some money from someone, giving them that extra level of something might be a good way to kind of seal the deal, I suppose. A great question to start with, Michael. Always explore the bartering first. It might make life a little simplistic because you don't have to worry about the whole money thing and where you stand with that. Let's look to the next question. So Danny Battersill has asked, crowdfunding online, startup funding and applications through established government channels, or seeking investment through like-minded investors, what are the pros and cons of each? Well, let's just take this on a really simple level. Crowdfunding online, the pro of it is, of course, you can get a huge amount of capital from very little amounts of investment from each person. But it relies on you being able to promote the fact that you're, you're launching something. It's no good just to stick a page up, no matter how good the product is, because some people will find it, but you've got to be able to promote that, because you're typically with crowdfunding, you're getting small chunks of money from many people. And so attention is what you're really after. Darth Vader official, nice to see you on here. Thanks for joining in and thanks for the wave. So that's important in terms of crowdfunding online. And of course, it's a great way of scaling. So many, if you look at Amazon now, they have a kind of a Kickstarter page. You can see things that have been crowdfunded, and it's some exciting products that, you know, come to fruition because of that. It's the new way of getting investment capital. It's a new way of leveraging the people, and the world we're both in and heavily fast moving into is the cut out the middleman one. It's a case of saying, if I have a great product, I know the audience would love it. I no longer have to try and leverage a middleman like an investor to take it to market. I no longer have to leverage shipping or packaging issues. I no longer have to try and get a factory building, because I can cut all of that out, often by going around them. And often with something like crowdfunding, I can go direct to audience and say, if you like this, throw some cash down and let's make it worth your while. It's an exciting way of working rather than going through someone. So it's a great way of working. I would never ever suggest, because I'm involved in a business that I invested in just over a year ago, I would never suggest crowdfunding on its own. I'd suggest it's a channel for you to generate income for funding, or rather to generate funding. But I strongly believe you're careful that, you know, that's not the only way you're doing it, because it takes a bit of time sometimes to get traction, and sometimes you're just not going to get that viral with it because it doesn't take. Okay, if we look at startup funding applications to establish government channels, I explored this when I first launched the business, and I've had with my taekwondo side of things, I've had thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of investment from the government, because of course it's sports. When I was working in London, every year we were getting thousands of pounds of government funding, because we were taking, we worked around Wembley, where the big stadium is, people who are in a disadvantaged area, ethnic minorities, and for 12 years I was coaching people in that space. And so of course it was getting people out of their houses. It was getting them exercising, keeping them fit, challenging things like obesity in that community as well. So it's a really fantastic thing to do. If you've got the kind of thing that governments are actively trying to promote, then of course it makes sense to go for that. But the downside is it can be something very difficult to wade through. It can be a very slow process. Money is often only there to a degree. There's only certain amounts of money you can apply for. Remember one government funding scheme, it was like the maximum you can get with a successful application is 1,500 quid. It's about $2,000. So no matter how great my proposition was, that's all I'd ever get. And so, you know, working privately with investors or with crowdfunding means you can typically access a lot more. Plus, government channels tend to be, I believe, where everyone goes first. So you are going to be drowned out a bit unless you really have something exciting to add. That really is important, okay? And then the other one you said is or seeking investment through like-minded investors. Look, this is what I'd say, Danny. If it's cash or capital you're after, if you need actual money, the way to do it is to go to people in your space who are keen on what you have to offer. For every government body or for every VC or angel investor that's out there, there will be 1,000 people who have a little bit of cash. And that's why crowdfunding works so well. Who have a little bit of cash who are keen on investing in something. Those private investors, you could call them, you know, a lot of people on the breadline, but there's a lot of people who have a little bit of disposable income or some money that they're willing to throw on something. If you can get engagement, if you can get a culture of, you know, people thinking you're a great guy, it's so much more straightforward to leverage that. And I personally, if I could choose any form of, you know, place to go for capital, I would always go for people on the kind of, you know, people in my network who felt what I was doing was great. And I'd say, look, I'd invest huge amounts over the years in providing great value and getting buy-in from them so that if the time came that I needed to ask for capital, I know, and I do right now, for instance, I know there are certain people I could tap up and say, here's this proposition, here's your ROI on it, here's how you can get, you know, great returns from it. How do you feel about investing some money? And I'm just going to get responses like that, as opposed to, relatively speaking, I believe a lot more pain going through venture capitalists and angel investors. They are professionals at looking deeply at the structure and the detail around businesses. And unless you're prepared for often quite the hardcore pitch, it's often a better approach to look for people who aren't necessarily, I'm not saying that people don't know what they're doing if they're private investors, but if someone's more bought into you on a personal level rather than on a business level, or rather just on a business level, and just in terms of the numbers, it makes us such a difference. And it's really where the buy-in is on a kind of on a connection and a social level. If you look at people who are loved in the social space, wherever that might be, and those people have a great following and they are adored by their fans, if they wanted to launch something, they have traction because they have attention, and as a result they tend to get great amount of capital thrown at them. There's a reason why, although arguably it kind of flopped, maybe it's the business plan, there's a reason why there was a lot of attention behind Tidal, the music streaming service that was launched by Jay-Z. Yeah, it kind of hasn't worked, but the reality is it got a load of attention to start with because he was leveraging his name and brand. So this is why you work on your brand all the time, because you never know when you're going to need it. When there's a product launch, when there's a need to ask someone for something, hey, everyone jumping online on Instagram, it's really important to make sure that you're in a place where you can leverage that good favor. This sounds really mercenary, but you know, you need to be in a place where you've got good attention, because then it looks like people are interested in you, and that goes a long way. So that's my response, just a quick one to it, Danny. Which one would I take as a 1, 2, 3? I would go to like-minded individuals first. I would then go to crowdfunding online second, and I would go to established government channels third. If you are absolutely nailing all criteria for a government channel, like I did with the Taekwondo school, where it was disadvantaged communities, helping ethnic minorities beat obesity and you know, bad diet through social physical activity, then of course you win. And they were throwing money at us simply because it just resonated with their set of needs. If you've got something a little bit off-piste, it's going to be hard work to kind of to crowbar money out of them. So that's worth bearing in mind. Any more questions you have, jump in and let me know for this. Thanks everyone online in LinkedIn, on Facebook even, Instagram, and of course YouTube as well. Let's get to the next question. This is from Craig Alexander Hurd. Richard, what are the good habits of a great business owner? Nothing to do with investing, but there's no problem, Craig. Let's answer this. I think that I've talked a lot about this idea of obsession. I want to clarify it. I think that a habit is actually a trait as well, which is a healthy obsession with your business, a healthy obsession. An unhealthy obsession would be one where you are constantly working on it to the point that other things suffer. For instance, if you're trying to build your own business so you can have a great time and flexibility with your family, but you're so obsessed with your business you spend no time with your family, you're kind of missing the point, right? So a healthy obsession is one where you obsess about it because you should, but with the right level of kind of measured approach to this, because you need to obviously balance your life with the other things that are important to you as well. So looking after family and things like that, if that's important to you. So I feel that healthy obsession is essential. One thing that's really moved me forward fast is just simply being engaged with the business every day. In my head, as a default, my mind will always go to one of three places: my wife, my kids, my business. They really sit at the top. And whenever I have a spare moment in my mind, it will naturally gravitate to how those three things are going. And, you know, all decisions made are bearing those three elements in mind. So every day, throughout the day, and if you don't have children, it doesn't matter. You can probably relate to this because you've been in charge yourself. Imagine how much your parents weigh into any decision making each day. Of course, it's going to, it's the same for your business as well. So always thinking, you know, how are we doing there? You know, you've got to touch base with it every day in your head several times just to check that everything's working out, and if there's any ideas you have, just in the same way as with your child as well. You know, mine are both in childcare or at school right now, but I'm always thinking, you know, wonder how they're doing here, or what they're going to have for dinner, or what should we do tomorrow, and all that kind of thing as well. So it's important to kind of to bear that in mind. I would also say, I mean, it goes out saying, but showing up, you know, some people are, if you take my last point, some people really shut down at the end of the day on a Friday and never give their business a moment's thought of the weekend. I get it. You want to have balance with the lifestyle and that, but I do feel there should be some kind of meshing, because this is what I've done really well, I feel, is meshing life and business so it's all one fun thing. So, you know, soon, it'll be in May, I'm running an event in London that's going to be an entrepreneur event. Everyone's going to be jumping in. There's a few speakers as well. That's not work. That's fun. That's me leveraging a hobby and getting to network with people. I might generate some business from it, but it's a great opportunity for me to have some amazing people around me and to get people speaking and so on. But I just, you know, it's not like, well, the moment that's finished, I have to shut down and go and do some work, or the moment that's finished, it's the end of my day. It's like, I'm doing it because it's fun, and much of my work or much of your work might involve your family as well. For me, it doesn't. My wife works alongside me as kind of legal counsel, but other than that, you know, it has its place separately, but also I kind of bring it into my life as well. So think about your balance, showing up every day and not shutting down your attention to your business because of some ridiculous traditional conventions such as, oh, but it's 5:30, so I shouldn't be working on it anymore. I don't quite buy into that, to be honest. If you're doing the right thing, you'll want to be around it. One of the best examples is my wife, who used to be a lawyer, and she now is running her own cake making and decorating business. She runs classes, things like that. And, you know, at 11 o'clock at night, she'll be, you know, if we're chilling out, she might have her iPad open and she's checking out some new technique on modeling something for some kind of cake she's making. You know, you can't have a business you expect to be passionate in and at the same time say, well, I won't work on it because it's certain times of day when I shouldn't. Obviously, sometimes you've got to put the phone down. You know, at the weekend, for instance, hanging out with my kids meant don't use your phone, focus in on the children, because that's what mattered for me at that moment. But you need to have that kind of passion and excitement around your business to allow it to sit outside of this kind of silly idea that it should be siloed, I think. So hopefully that makes sense. It's what I believe. A thumbs up if that makes sense to you as well. That's strongly what I believe. It's important to kind of decide with yourself what level of balance you're going to have. For some, it's 50-50. For some, they will stop work at 6. That's what they want to do. For some, it will be, how do I streamline it so work is part of life? And for me, that's what I like. And I think something else I'd add, just to be more practical, Craig, because you have asked me what the good habits of a great business owner. I believe every day you must ask yourself at least once, where is my next customer coming from? There's a great saying in business I found years ago, which was, when you've closed your best prospect, you've just lost your best prospect. Because of course they're a customer now, so who's next? If you've got great pipeline, who's next? If loads of people join you and buy your product, who's next? If they all cancel or decide not to work with you or fall out of your pipeline, who's next? Every day you have to have that conversation with yourself. Where is my next piece of business coming from? I started my day today with a phone call that's closed me a piece of business. So the top of my week has begun with me closing business and bringing in some money for the company. So before anything happens, before I even checked emails, that's been closed. Then I had a phone call to tee something up afterwards as well. That new customer thing, literally every day, not just when you run out of cash, but every day, is essential. And if you're in a place where you can't handle more customers, it's an exciting problem to have. Keep doing it every day, new customers, but then build a system around that. So that's probably one of my best pieces of advice there, Craig. Let's get back onto the investor and capital raising and fundraising side of things. Isabella Pasquale's asked, what's some of the qualified platforms, outlets, or firms that are actively seeking startups or products to invest in internationally? I want to open this up to everyone else. So if anyone has a question, if anyone has a person or a company or some kind of platform that's looking to invest in startups, share it. You only have to go to Google and type something like investor network or investor forum, and you'll find groups like this of people who are actively searching. There's loads of like angel investor related groups out there as well. My suggestion is you take it all with a pinch of salt. The places where investors go, like a group or something online or a site or a forum, where they go to look and analyze businesses that might be relevant for their capital, are going to be heavily subscribed to. Yes, there's some attention there, but you better stand out because the noise level will be insane. Okay, so I'm not kind of lowering your aspirations, but I think bear that in mind. In terms of ones I would suggest, get on Google and check it out. It'll be different for everyone. I think I'll open it up. If anyone has any ideas of what works for them, any ones they know about, go check them out. But it's very difficult to answer because there are so many of them. And for many, they're all the same. It's just places where investors live. Far better is to look at individuals, in my opinion, Isabella. So I feel that you would do better to spend your time engaging directly with individuals you find. Get on LinkedIn. Find people who are investors, find people who work with startups, find people who have some capital, people who make a load of money. They need to know what they're going to do with it. I know so many people who earn a great wage each year and they don't know what to do. So, hey, we'll just buy some more property. They buy a portfolio of houses or something because it's a good place to put their money, right? They're perfect. Get in touch with high net worth individuals who are doing whatever they're doing, maybe working in your space in some sense. They're not necessarily investors at all, but if this person makes $250 a year, then why wouldn't you ask for $7,000 from them for a great idea? Give them some equity as well. Give them a reason why they should invest in you. I would be all over that personally. Unless it's essential that you have this, Isabella, I think we should be really challenging, especially nowadays, where we're really going for investment. There are so many influencers online who are making great money, who are great at leveraging the online space, for instance, And if they fell in love with you and by extension your idea, not only would they throw you some capital if you asked them and you did it right, of course they'd be far more excited about working with you because they know they could leverage you, through their network as well, and that can help them directly. So get thinking about that. I think taking the direct or rather traditional route is potentially a mistake here, because if the world is going in that direction, you have to get in line, you have to follow certain steps and procedures, and it can become very convoluted. I really feel that there's good value in looking at people as individuals instead. So hopefully that helps. Thanks everyone for jumping on. Daria, hello. Powwow and Pip was the coolest name in the world. Thanks very much for jumping in here. And everyone else, Ben and Michael and Daniel and Mark and Craig, thanks so much for jumping in on Facebook recently. So let's look at a couple more questions on this. We've got Daniel Nunez. Do you have app recommendations on how to track and monitor funding so that reports can be made to investors and funders? I'll open this one up again as well, because what's best is experiences from people like you guys. What are the best apps for reporting and so on? I think, you can look at things like moneybox.com, Scootify.com. These are kind of social networks. Scootify is SCUTIFY.com, like social networks for investors. I do believe you should be looking at what works for you. It might just be that you set up Trello or a Slack workspace for you and your investors, so you can share what's going on rather than a dedicated specific app. But certainly some kind of place where you can have that transparency with your investors is a good idea. I think that might be a better way of doing it, Daniel. So maybe it's Trello or something like that. Maybe you have you could have a closed group on Facebook, and every week at 3 p.m. on Friday, you sit down and you give a kind of investors chat, a live talk, or you upload a video with the latest news from the week, and they can tune in whenever they want or watch the replay and see what's going on. Think about it. Every year, and recently he's just done it, Warren Buffett has a shareholders meeting. All his shareholders can fly in, listen to what he has to say about what he's done for the year. And of course, then famously, he'll say, as he always has, kind of almost like, now leave me alone to go and make you more money in the next year. But having that transparency and sharing with them isn't done through an app. It's done through the shareholders meeting for Berkshire Hathaway, where everyone comes together. So you can do it in a number of ways. I think some kind of productivity app where you get everyone together might be a good shout. Check out Slack, something like that would be excellent, because you can share documents and what's going on and so on as well. William Darnell Simmons, what is the best way to establish a business in an already existing market like cell phones? Well, this is for many very difficult, because what they are doing is they're saying, for instance, if you're going to launch a new cell phone business, you say, right, it's really hard because, no one knows who the hell I am. You need something disruptive in established markets. You could call the smartphone market established right now because there's very mature businesses with mature products there. I think that the problem people have is they look for a great product, but they don't look for the essential thing, which is the engagement. There's a business I'm going to be working with soon, a new client, and they want loads of traction and business leads to come in, but their social media is crap. And so because they have no engagement and essentially have no attention from any kind of demographic they're trying to target, they're screwed right now. So they need to work on that game before they can expect to get any leads to come through. And it's the same here. You need a disruptive product that's going to be interesting. If you're an also ran, there's no point at all. You need to have something that's different. If there's, if you're going to work in the cell phone market, what are you going to bring that's different? Why should someone work with you? It doesn't have to be the product, William. It could be that 50% of every mobile phone that's bought, or every if you're selling tariffs, mobile phone plans, cell phone plans, maybe 50% of all profit goes to charity every month. Whatever it is, something that's disruptive is the way to get people talking, because you need people talking. If you're going to launch or establish a business in an existing market, you simply need people talking about you. There's a reason why businesses surge out of nowhere and get loads of attention. It's because people are talking about them. In a year from now, there will be a new social network. We don't know what it is, but it's people talking about it in the next 8 or 9 months that will get them there. A good example potentially is, of course, many people remember Vine, which of course shut down now by Twitter. There's V2 as it's known for legal reasons, but essentially it's Vine 2 that's probably going to be going out in August this year, I think. People are already starting to talk about it. It's going to be great. So many people are going to jump on it. And so that's a brand new business. Okay. It's not owned by Twitter. It's just the same guy that launched Vine originally. It's going to be building it. So Vine 2, or V2 as it will be known, it's a great example of a business that has attention already. It's not even been launched, and that's why it will do moderately well at least. If there was an IPO for V2 on the day it launched, it would be worth a load of cash. It would probably be worth several million because of its potential. If you look at it probably in a year from now, it will have tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of users, because, you know, that's what launched so many YouTube careers. That's, you know, that's done so much for social media and for influencers. V2, people are going to be all over it because it's the next thing potentially. As you know, there'll be other platforms, but by the end of this year, I bet V2's got some serious traction because people are talking about it. And look, it's February, we're talking about it already, and you know, it's not going to be live for probably 6 months, I believe. So you have to have that sorted. Have something disruptive or interesting. Make sure you're in touch with enough people out there that there's a small hub of people who evangelize and advocate for your product, William, and that will really help you out there. Attention first. You know, be great with your product as well. That's why 11 years ago, Apple thrashed BlackBerry, because Apple was cool, not because it was better, technically speaking. Think about bandwidth, email security, phone, battery life, so on. BlackBerry probably had it, but Apple was cool and it got the attention of people, and that became the snowball runaway thing. BlackBerry right now, they ain't going to sell many smartphones because they're not cool. It's not their time. It might be their time again in the future, but right now they've got to crack that cultural thing first, and that's where you need to focus in on all of your attention. Go read Jonah Berger, Invisible Influence, and things like that, and that will start helping you understand this. Thanks everyone for the engagement here on Instagram is amazing. Hello everyone over on Facebook as well. Thanks very much for these questions. Let's ask a couple more here. So Mark Rithala, I hope I said your name right, or Rithala. I apologize, Mark. I know there's a million ways of saying your name. My question would be, what types of networking work best for you? We've all seen Vegas gatherings for large groups, but how effective can they really be? Okay, look, when it comes to, I've had so many different ones over the years at trade shows that are vast, trade shows that are small, conferences, things like that. The best networking events are the ones where you can get around the people in the time you're there. It's magnificent for the marketing when you talk about your event that has 60,000 attendees. And if you're exhibiting at that event, you're going to get a load of what's known as foot traffic. It's great for visibility. But if you're going to network, you're seriously at a disadvantage in terms of getting around everyone, because you won't. For every stand that's there, there'll be 150 people who don't have a stand that you could network with as well. Conferences, for me, the intimate events by far and away are the ones that stand out as being the most effective. When there's 60 people, 40 people, 33 people in a room, it's really effective because you can get around them all. But also with conferences and with networking events, you tend to find not only are they intimate, but as a reflection of that, they tend to be very, very focused on your particular niche. So as an example, recently I went to an event that was over in West London. It was on LinkedIn engagement, and a load of people that were there, probably 50 or so, all related to LinkedIn and hacking it and getting growth and content production and things like that. So it was great because everyone I spoke to was all relevant to that space, very pure signal. So I felt that that was very effective. Get to the smaller conferences. Less is more, because then you have time to get around everyone. You know, it's a 3-hour event that was, so I had a chance to get around a strong amount of people. You know, the 3-4 day events in Vegas that have 70,000 attending, they're a nightmare to get around because you're going to barely scratch the surface. Yes, it's nice to be there, but you know, you better not be flying halfway around the world to meet 17 people. It's a bit of a waste of your time, unless you're sure you're going to be closing something off. Okay, so that's my response. there are different types of networking, but you've got to think the less people you have to engage with, the more time and energy you can give to each one, Mark. So as a result, the best way of engaging, of course, is one-on-one, right? So a meeting, going for a coffee with someone will be everything because you've got that full attention. So something close to that where you can be effective really makes sense. Next week, for example, I think next week or the week after, no, next week, I'm in London on Thursday morning for a guy I'm meeting who works with the government. I'm going to be having a chat with him about smart cities around midday. So that's an opportunity to get 4 or 5 other little meetings in that morning and just cram in some very intense productivity. And that for me is the best way of networking. Go to your nearest city. Meet one customer or potential client for a meeting, but take 2 hours either side of that meeting and book in a load of other meetings as well. It'll be the most productive morning you have for a while. I think it's a better way of doing things. I'm all for events and conferences and things like that, but I strongly feel the more intimate ones where there's less people give you the better opportunity for more traction, because people aren't kind of trying to get through the numbers. They're working with the fact that it's only going to be tens of people they would speak to over that day, for instance. Let's look at maybe one more question here. And Benjamin Allen has asked, imagine you're the inventor of a groundbreaking medical device looking to raise $2.5 million in seed capital to begin clinical trials. You're pitching your product and business plan to one of the most esteemed investors in that space. So well done getting that meeting. What do you do to get them to write that check? How did you get that opportunity to present to them? It's all about what you do before the meeting that matters. When you're pitching an investor, just like when you're pitching anyone for anything, because it is selling, right? It's the same as anything else. You need to go in armed with attention, armed with your homework being done on both yourself and on the person you're speaking to. And essentially, you need to go in armed, ideally, with some social proof or some advocates as well. You know, there are some people I know who I could go to if I was after capital, and I know I would win because I've got a leverage point, and it will be maybe there's a mutual contact that could vouch for me. Okay. When you go in to meet an esteemed investor and you've courted 7 people around them that they're great friends with and know and love, it makes life a lot easier. And you know, they just, the barriers are down, they let you in, they're going to want to see reasons why they can help you, ideally invest in you, but if not, help you get to that place. If you, I look at a campaign I was involved with a few weeks ago online, so kind of a marketing campaign that had to leverage YouTube. By being in touch with several people I knew were relevant to the space, who had great followings as well, I was able to get that kind of thing boosted by speaking to those people, saying, you know, what do you think about this? And laying the groundwork beforehand. So if you're going to meet an investor in 2 weeks' time, don't just research the guy, research their network as well. Research their network and understand the closest people to them. Then go meet those closest people. Ask them, what's this person going to really want to see? What do you think of my idea? Would you invest in it? If they're all saying, yeah, you can start name dropping. Imagine being in a meeting with an investor and being able to say, you know, I spoke to your, you know, Barry, your friend, or Wendy, these guys who you're really close friends with, who you respect as peers. I showed them this the other day. They said this, they said that. That kind of social proof makes such a difference, especially when it's social proof aligned with that investor. So his social group, not yours. It helps if you talk about how great your social group thinks you are. But when you talk about how great their social group thinks that you are, it really matters. It makes the difference. So you're walking into that meeting, Ben, and they're saying, great to meet you. I'm looking forward to this pitch. I've heard great things about you from my friend Barry and my friend Wendy, who I respect highly in the space. They're framed, if you like, and positioned ready to love what you have to offer because you've got advocates on their team whispering in their ear, this is something worth looking at. So research the network around the investor. That's a great way of doing it. I'm talking about laying this groundwork before the actual meeting itself, because the meeting really should be, you know, proof of concept, and just kind of going through the detail with them. But you should really lay that foundation before. Hey, can I have a coffee with you? Yes, sure, you can have a coffee with me, is not sufficient groundwork. To expect to do it all on the call, or sorry, on in that meeting is a mistake. Get something moving before then. But also think about, I mean, this is needless to say, but for some of you it isn't. When you're preparing for that investment call or that investment meeting, think hard about how you're going to position this. Yes, you need to talk about the benefits of the product. Yes, you need to talk about how much attention you have and how much people love you, but it's essential to talk about the wins for them. So what kind of ROI can they expect? Where's the returns for them? Can they access their capital or their funding quick? If they need to pull out, what would that look like? When can they start seeing returns? Have you covered the downside? What if X, Y, and Z goes wrong? What other investors are involved? Where's their other interest as well? But, you know, when will you start seeing profit? You know, if it's the case that I'm investing money and within a week I can start seeing profit, now I'm excited. And if I can access that, you know, as liquidity, if I can go in and start getting money back out again as we start winning, that's exciting. If it's the case that I'm investing and I can't access that capital for 7 years, it's going to be a little less exciting because that's a very long-term investment. So show them where those wins will be and that you've done that homework. One big thing I'd say from investing in businesses myself is a lot of people, when they come to pitch, they don't show that they've covered the downside. They talk up how great the product is, but what I'm interested in is a balanced discussion on not just how great it is and how it will work, but also how they'll deal with the downside, how they're mitigating the risks, because there are issues. And if you aren't presenting them to me as an investor, I'll be thinking of them anyway. So and then I'll ask you questions about that. And if I don't, I'll at least be thinking about them. So show you cover the downside. You might say, I recognize I've got 6 years experience in this space, but I've got a board with 7 people representing over 83 years experience in this space. So we're winning for that. I've got a person who is this good at sales, who's going to be running the sales team. I've got this person in development, and this is their experience, so that if we have any issues, that, you know, we're covered in that way, and so on. So make sure you're covering the downside. That really makes the difference. Thanks so much, everyone. Everyone jumping in right now really makes a huge start to my week, and I'm really glad you're all doing the same. Thank you very much. This has been Startup Business Q&A episode 83. I really hope that was valuable for you. Thank you, everyone on Facebook, on the Entrepreneur Business Group, on YouTube as well, and of course here on Instagram. Have a massive Monday. Let me know if I can help with anything. Any more questions you add, if you're of course listening on the replay, or if you're listening to this on the podcast later, then let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll jump on those as well. But otherwise, have a great day, and let me know if you have any more issues. But otherwise, take care. Massive week ahead, and all the love to you. Thanks so much. Finally, to Mark, Craig, Isabello, Daniel, Danny, Michael, William, and Ben for your questions, and take care. See you later.